believe you're not listening to me. You have to be the stupidest, dumbest kid in the world. I don't understand why I even had you. Why were you even born? You know what they call kids like you? Stupid and dumb. Stupid, dumb Seth. That's what your new name is going to be. Every time I see you, every single day, every minute, it's going to be stupid, dumb Seth.
There are about 900,000 victims of child abuse each year. Even though only 7% of these cases are documented as emotional or psychological maltreatment, the actual number is thought to be much higher, since this type of abuse is not often reported. And when this type of abuse is reported, it is the most difficult to prove. Often, by the time authorities have enough information to implicate the parents, guardians, or caretakers, terrible psychological damage has already been done to the child. In psychological abuse, parents or those responsible for the child's welfare engage in habitual patterns of belittling, denigrating, and rejecting the child, destroying or significantly impairing his competence or self-esteem. Other components of psychological abuse include adults terrorizing, ignoring, or corrupting the child, encouraging destructive and antisocial behavior, exposing the child to domestic violence, or isolating her, preventing the formation of friendships, and making the child believe she is alone. Other components are destroying the child's possessions, or torturing or killing her pet. It is interesting to note that when psychological abuse and physical abuse coexist, victims frequently report that the hateful messages of the parents linger long after the memory of a physical beating has passed. In general, the effects on children from psychological abuse are as varied as the methods. The emotional consequences may be short-term or last a lifetime. Feelings may include being emotionally abandoned, unwanted, unloved, unworthy, and inadequate.
You know what they call kids like you? Stupid and dumb. Stupid, dumb Seth. That's what your new name.
Behaviors can range from withdrawal and depression, sometimes even leading to suicide attempts, to hostility and aggression. Stress-related problems manifest as sleep disturbances, headaches, stomach aches, and nervous habits such as stuttering and tics.
What are you doing?
Psychological abuse has been associated with lying, low self-esteem, and school underachievement. Severe emotional abuse of a child is believed to play a large part in later criminal behavior when the child becomes a teen or an adult. Unfortunately, this type of abuse is usually noticed only when a child displays significant behavioral changes or observers report verbal assaults or unusual parent-child interactions they have witnessed.
Sean? Sean, could you come here for a minute, please? Sean, what happened to your eye?
I fell off my bunk bed.
What you gonna do now? Yes, you are. And don't you lie to me.
Physical abuse can be defined as a non-accidental injury inflicted on a child. It is estimated that 1,400 children die each year from intentional injury. 76% are less than 4 years of age, while 12% are between the ages of 4 and 7 years. Like Sean, abused children rarely betray their abusers, especially parents, by telling the truth about their injuries. Such responses may be because the children fear retaliation, but often occur because they love their parents and fear losing the security of the home environment, no matter how terrible. It is all they know. There are some risk factors associated with child abuse. Research has demonstrated that many of the children were premature at birth. Furthermore, they may have a chronic illness, a disability such as a cognitive, motor, or verbal impairment, or a psychiatric, emotional, or conduct disorder. Everyone is capable of abusing a child given the right circumstances and stresses. However, most abusive parents are socially isolated, divorced or separated, unemployed, and have few social supports.
Did you wet in your pants again?
Many have been maltreated themselves as children and are under intense stress. What has been noted is their low self-esteem, their feelings of being unloved and unworthy. They are often characterized as having little patience with their offspring and having unrealistic expectations of their child's behavior due to lack of knowledge about normal child development.
How many times do I have to tell you? You tell Mommy when you have to wet. That's bad. You're bad.
For example, they will punish their young toddlers for behavior such as wetting their pants or spilling milk, and may interpret a young child's fantasy as a deliberate lie. Often parents have an inability to read their child's facial expressions and cries. They may, for example, mistake distress signals for anger and petulance.
Sean, you lied to me about cleaning your room.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. I was just in there.
Over half of all physically abusive incidents arise as a result of the parents' attempts to discipline their child. Unaware of or unwilling to use reasoning or non-physical punishment, the parent's behavior causes injury to the child. Whereas non-abusive parents tailor their discipline to the child's misbehavior, using a variety of techniques such as reasoning, scolding, and withholding privileges.
Eric, do you want to go to your room for a timeout?
Those who abuse their children tend to use physical punishment more frequently and to use harsher methods. The degree of punishment may relate more to the parent's emotional state and inability to cope with their own pressures than the child's behavior. Often parents or guardians cannot control their frustration and anger. This may lead to their either vigorously shaking the infant or shaking him, then slamming him onto a hard surface such as a mattress or wall. Shaken baby syndrome is the leading cause of brain injury in infants, causing blindness, motor deficits, cognitive impairment, and emotional or psychological dysfunction. 20 to 25% of its victims die, usually from intracranial trauma or its sequelae. All professionals who care for children should be aware of the signs of physical abuse. Bruises, the most common finding, are often covered by clothing, which may be inappropriate for the weather. For example, a long-sleeved sweater and long pants during a heat spell. Almost all children naturally sustain bruises as part of their everyday play activities. These are frequently seen over bony areas, such as the knees, shins, chin, and forearms. In contrast, injuries from abuse often include a unilateral black eye and bruises around the ears, the face and neck, the upper arms, the chest, abdomen, or genitals, the back of the legs, the buttocks, or the hands and feet. Infants who are not yet crawling or walking do not achieve enough momentum on their own to cause accidental bruising to their faces or other areas of their body. In addition to location, bruises in various stages of healing, as indicated by changes in color, are significant. They are a sign of multiple injuries occurring at different times. The severity of the bruises is also significant. Sometimes bruises indicate a shape. For example, a coat hanger, belt buckle, or linear imprint suggesting a blow from a belt, rope, or cord. A handprint may be evident, especially on the face of a toddler. Darkened areas called Mongolian spots may be seen on the bodies of some children. These often occur on the lower back and limbs, but can occur anywhere on the child's skin. They are normal and are not evidence of abuse. In addition to bruises, other significant signs of abuse include bite marks, especially from adult teeth, and fingernail scratches. Burns are also commonly seen on the children's hands, face, back, buttocks, back of legs, and soles of the feet. The burns may have an identifiable shape, as from a cigarette, an iron, or a grate. They may be mistaken for impetigo, a common skin infection in children. Impetigo is a small, round, crusty, yellow superficial lesion. Cigarette burns are deeper and usually scar. Scalding may occur with the abuser lowering the child into very hot water. With this, there is usually a sharp, even boundary between the injured and non-injured skin. Often such burns are described as resembling a sock or a glove. In contrast, a child who accidentally falls into hot water usually falls forward and thus has burns on his hands or her hands and splash marks on the chest. Burns from hot liquid spilling from a high surface, such as a stovetop or table, also have a definite pattern which is asymmetric and more intense on the upper parts of the body. Sometimes the child may have a painful inability to move certain parts of the body. This may suggest fractures and dislocations. In infants under 1 year of age, fractures are uncommon, and their presence is a strong indication of abuse. Often X-rays of abuse victims show numerous fractures, either new or in various stages of healing. Frequently, parents in abusive families deny knowing their children have been hurt and delay bringing them in for treatment, sometimes waiting until they have lost consciousness, have a seizure, develop severe respiratory distress, or are in acute pain. Oftentimes, they give explanations for these injuries that are inconsistent with the physical findings.
I really can't tell you. Maybe she just got them with the kids from the kids in the neighborhood playing with them.
Behavioral signs of physical abuse vary. Often nurses in hospitals describe abused infants as having a passive watchfulness, lying quietly in their crib and intently observing their surroundings. Some describe this as hypervigilance. Having no expectations that their parents will comfort them, they do not react as strongly as other children to examinations or painful procedures. Their reactions to adults vary. Some may be wary of physical contact, and others show indiscriminate friendliness, cling to anyone, and are extremely affectionate, seeming almost to crave attention. Interestingly, these children do not shun the abusive parent. Instead, they constantly try to please him or her, hoping to gain their love. It has been noted that abused children show little interest in play and toys. Life has been unrewarding for them, and their attitude demonstrates this. With time, these children may come to see themselves as bad and deserving of the abuse. Withdrawal is another behavioral sign. Often the child talks little and has poor language development. Interacting with other children is also difficult. By the time they enter school, they are almost 3 times as likely to be aggressive and violent as are children who have not been abused.
Why were you being so rough and unkind?
He was going to take the ball.
But don't you think you were being a little rough?
Frequently, abused children attribute hostile intentions to other children and see aggression as the only solution to their problems with peers. Not surprisingly, they are not very well liked by their peers. They are also more likely to be aggressive in situations in which non-abused children are not. For example, in one study, abused toddlers in daycare reacted to another child's distress by showing fear or by lashing out at the distressed child with aggression or anger. Not one abused child showed concern or empathy for the distressed child. In contrast, more than half of the non-abused children showed sadness or empathy for their distressed peer. When confronted with evidence of child abuse or neglect, the professional should try to maintain a non-judgmental approach and a non-confrontational tone.
These injuries are pretty serious. Do you want to talk about it?
His dad's a little rough on Sean. He hits him sometimes, and he uses the belt, and it's been worse since he lost his job.
Alienating the parents is unwise. They will be reluctant to give the professional any more information and may immediately remove the child from the facility without obtaining adequate help. Professionals, however, should not by themselves attempt to cure or rescue the family simply by talking with them. Those in disciplines such as healthcare, education, criminal justice, and social work are called mandated reporters. They must by law report suspected maltreatment of children to state or local agencies. Reporting does not require proof, only a reasonable suspicion, and it is mandatory even when the information is given in a confidential interview. Child abuse and neglect are complex problems that require multidisciplinary, long-term management, and legal intervention. Being aware of characteristics of parents who are at risk for psychological and physical abuse of their children is a first step in preventing such maltreatment. Some risk factors may be detected by professionals working with women during pregnancy or in the postpartum period. Often the history gives important clues. For example, delayed or no prenatal care can be a risk factor.
I can see that this is your first visit here. Have you been getting your prenatal care elsewhere? Is this your first prenatal visit period?
Nursing staff should not be afraid to ask pertinent questions. One indication of an unstable living situation is a frequent change of address. For example, the mother moves more than twice in 1 year or is living in a hotel or car.
It says here, Sandy, on the intake that you provided us, that you're living at the Metro Motel. Now, how long have you been living there?
Couple weeks, I think about 5 weeks.
Another risk factor is the mother changed her mind about placing her child with adoptive parents and deciding to keep the baby. At risk, too, are mothers whose previous child or children were abused or neglected, or had to be taken from the home or placed with relatives or in foster care for an extended time. A mother who is a victim of domestic violence or who has suffered from parental violence or neglect as a child is also at risk. It is estimated that about 1/3 of those who suffered abuse from their parents will abuse their own children.
Your background at home, what kind of discipline did your parents use? How would you kind of describe that?
Spanking or hitting whenever we didn't come home or, broke something or whatever, we got hit.
It should be noted, however, that many adults who were abused as children are themselves caring, non-abusive parents, and many abusive parents were never maltreated when they were children.
Sandy, I just wanted to let you know that we have some Lamaze classes here. I don't know if you saw the note on the door when you came in, but they're offered every Thursday evening here. I think it'd be a really good idea if you could attend some Lamaze classes.
Similarly, potential parenting problems may be suspected if a mother refuses to attend or drops out of prenatal classes or fails to obtain basic supplies for the coming child. Another risk factor is a parent with mental illness.
Okay, so you've been actually dealing with depression for quite a while.
Yes.
Since about what age would you say?
15.
Parents who have serious mental illnesses such as depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia are at risk for inadequate nurturing and disturbances in the parent-child relationship that could lead to maltreatment of their children. The history of alcoholism or drug abuse in either parent or indications of current use should also be noted. Substance abuse is a significant factor in all types of child maltreatment. Cognitive disabilities of the mother can also be a risk factor. This is not to say that mothers with developmental challenges cannot be capable of providing an appropriate and nurturing environment for their children. Many can, but they often need extra assistance. And finally, another significant risk factor is that the mother has unrealistic expectations of the coming child.
The baby will love me.
Once the child is born, observations of the mother-child interactions should also be made. It should be determined whether or not the parent and child establish eye contact. This interaction, or lack thereof, can be indicative of the quality of the parent-child relationship. Abusive mothers often complain about their child, regarding him or her as too demanding. Parents who make negative comments about their children's appearance also have a high potential for abusing them. The ability of the mother to comfort the child should also be addressed. In addition, handling the baby roughly or in a detached manner may indicate a risk. In order to be of help to families, especially those at risk, professionals working with children should be aware of community organizations that are targeted to abuse prevention. For example, crisis nurseries, where parents may temporarily leave infants and young children until they are better able to deal with stress, are available in some areas. Counseling for parents using such a nursery is usually mandatory. In addition, safe haven laws give parents who want to give up their newborns the ability to turn their babies over to hospitals, churches, or other facilities without penalty or criminal charges. Other alternatives include foster care, parent aids, and residential treatment for the entire family. It has been said that children are a nation's most valuable resource. Yet in 1 year, it was estimated that almost 1 million children in the United States were identified as victims of maltreatment. Professionals should be attuned to signs of psychological and physical abuse and take the steps necessary to reduce the incidence of this dreadful crime against our most vulnerable citizens.